Hey everybody, welcome back to The Best Thing Ever, a new podcast where a group of friends go on a quest for bestness. We love discovering new things that we don't appreciate fully or new ways to appreciate stuff we already liked, and we like making a big old list to compare them. So that is our project for this show.
So elegant the way you described it.
Each week,
very good.
We nominate a topic that could be the best thing ever. One of us gives a presentation, a deep dive onto its history and philosophy. Then we give it a corporate employee review, and we rank it on the master list of best things ever, where it must compete with every other thing we've ever reviewed. So there's only one best thing ever. This week's episode, we were talking about warm beverages, including some horny bees, some dancing goats, and the phrase, "No, we don't have any syrups." All of that is coming up. Let me introduce you to the panel in a game that I call Three Hosts and a Lie. I'm your host. I'm Alex Falcone. A fact about me, and remember, there's going to be 4 facts. One of them is a lie. A fact about me is I have competed in a combat juggling tournament before. Also joining me today, our marketing daddy, Ezra Fox. His first job was playtesting a computer game at the age of 3.
Yeah, I can't say I did a good job, but or that I was paid. So not a great job overall.
It doesn't sound like a
Video
job
game
so much anymore as exploitation.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't that if that is not games in a nutshell?
Yeah.
Getting
Sounds like you
young
were
people,
crunching.
young people who are passionate about the industry and they exploit them,
Yep.
and they crunch them and they burn them out by the time they are 5 years old, and then we lose that talent forever. It's a shame. It's a shame. It
Ezra
really
is also going to be our official audio-visual interpreter. So if you are watching, if you're not watching on YouTube, you're just listening to the show, he'll let you know anything you're missing in our handy visual aids. Also joining us, our angry socialist historian, Anthony Lopez, who has eaten at the same pizza place every Monday since 2014.
Whoa.
A couple of years where you had to get takeout, but same pizza every Monday. Also joining us, Hunter
Common
Donaldson.
Pizza.
What?
Me and Joe Posada.
Also joining us, Hunter Donaldson is a board game influencer, and his parents won the lottery, is a fact about
Yeah.
Hunter.
When they had him, like,
Oh, that's so sweet. I love
Not
that.
a figurative lottery, the actual one.
$1
the real
million.
one. All right.
One thing we're going to try to change
$1 million.
is last week
Yeah.
Hunter did a thing to me where you made me come up with more information on my lie right away, which I was not prepared for, and made my lie very obvious to everybody. So we're going to do a little less of that now. We're not going to do too
no
many
talking
follow-ups.
on this show.
What?
No
You don't want to
talking
hear
on
about
this
how my
show.
parents spent the money?
I do. We'll talk about it next week if that's not a lie. So,
Okay.
just to catch up on last week, mine was the lie. I've been to like 3 Major League Baseball stadiums. Who cares? I don't know how many there were. It was a giveaway. Everyone knew it. We're not good at riffing. But Anthony does have a brother named Anthony. And then we have a very special guest today, hanging out very patiently while we play Three Hosts and a Lie. This is not a lie. This is a true fact. Irene, too, is a comedian, a tremendous comedian, one of the hottest comedians working today. I think we can all agree. You opened for Patton Oswalt recently. Did I see you with Sarah Silverman a couple weeks ago?
Indeed.
Yeah, if there's anybody cool, Irene is probably doing comedy right before they go on stage. And as a fun fact, you have met Taylor Swift. Was that in the context of a cool theater show? When did you meet Tay Swift?
I opened for her. No, I'm kidding.
I was gonna say,
Oh man, yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Like, it was her.
I've opened for Patton, Sarah Silverman, Taylor Swift. The
Classic.
classic.
Taylor Swift audiences are like famously the most chill and would love
You would like.
to sit quietly for a comedian to do a tight 25
Absolutely.
before Taylor came out.
love the
they would
idea
be
of
so
Taylor Swift.
receptive to that.
Yeah.
Oh my god. If Taylor Swift is like the new Johnny Carson, where it's like, well, you get 5 minutes on Taylor Swift, and then
You get to go sit on the couch with Taylor Swift during her show.
That would make my career, though.
It would, I mean, one show of that would
Actually
definitely
would, right?
sell out your record, which is called We're Done Now and is available on Bandcamp, also in a limited vinyl release, which I highly recommend, and also irene2.com to find out more information about you and where you're playing. And you are playing, you are touring around. So if people want to come see you do comedy, irene2.com. Thanks for being here, Irene.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Do you have a favorite warm beverage, Irene?
Currently, it's been a matcha latte.
Yeah.
yeah.
So we've gotten coffee together many times, which is why I asked you to be here for our warm beverages episode. So let's do a deep dive. Today we're talking about warm beverages, and I am giving the presentation. Anthony has the week off, so I have written this presentation on warm bevies. And now a complete history of warm beverages. I do feel the need to tell you, Irene, that song is ironic. Just so you know, the other music we play is cool on purpose. That one's dumb on purpose. Okay.
Oh, I
If
thought
you
it was
don't like
all
it, it's
ironic.
fun.
That one is dumb. So I took over for warm beverages for a couple reasons. One of them is I don't know if we've ever talked about this, you guys, but I am a beverage goblin. This is a new kind of person that has emerged on TikTok. We've been around forever, but we have a name now, which is that I don't think there's a minute during the day where we never got back to the answer. Oh, thank you, Irene.
Yeah,
you want a radio contest
like,
to meet Taylor?
Yes, I won a radio contest in high school to meet Taylor Swift.
Oh, cool. Okay, good. Yeah, we lost the thread of that one when we got into the Johnny Carson riff. Okay, so we're talking about beverage. So I'm a beverage goblin. Like, there's no minute of the day where I do not have at least one, possibly two beverages near me. I frequently have two in front of me. I don't know what it is.
I was just gonna say, I've known you for years. I don't think I've literally ever seen you without a cup in your hand.
I do. Every time we're on the show, I have at least one. Usually, I frequently have a coffee and I have a sparkling water off to the side. Those are my two main ones. I do, but just between coffee and sparkling water,
Wait, have you ever done
Not sparkling water? That's
have you done
weird.
sparkling coffee before?
Ew.
So this was a goal for many years that every coffee place was trying to figure out how to. I'm going to give you a terrible, serious answer to this question that you were just kidding about, but it was really hard. Like, there's a lot of different espresso tonic drinks, and all of them are okay, but it mostly just like you lose the fizz and it doesn't taste that good. And in fact, they use fizzy water as like a palate cleanser after an espresso because it kind of negates the flavor. But then they figured out cold brew nitro with the tiny bubbles, and that was what everyone went to. So that's the fizziest coffee.
Yeah.
See?
You ever had Coke and coffee? Pretty good. Yeah, that's actually good. I'm not even.
You're
That's
disgusting.
actually good.
This Hunter's kitchen is just a lab of what can I put Coke in.
Listen, I'm from Arkansas. I want Coke to be involved.
Have you guys
all
tried
right?
Coke toast? It's really good. It's actually good.
Have you ever tried Coke when you take cocaine back in the
A little
Coca-Cola?
bit of Coke. Some old Coke, some flat
Like
Coke.
Grandpa used
'Cause I
to
get a
drink.
lot of flat Coke, but then like you want to put the new good Coke in with the flat Coke.
Yeah,
and it just
yeah.
makes your Coke mile goes a bit longer.
So the main two warm beverages in the world are coffee and tea. Obviously, tea is the second most popular beverage in the world behind water. Like, these are just massively bigger than anything else. And I was curious, like, how did we get to this place? How did we get to the position where coffee and tea are so dominant in the world? Why these things? So that is going to be my fundamental question is going to start us for this presentation. So
It is like, it is this thing that like all of human progress really come from the idea of human beings just being like, how can we make water better? We need to drink water.
yeah, but
I'm
water sucks.
tired of water.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
how do we
I don't
make
like
water better?
Well, and actually, it's even more than that because water is frequently poison, and for a
that's
long
good
time,
point.
water was like dangerous to drink, and so beer and tea and coffee were ways of making water so you could actually hydrate without dying from it.
And this goes back to our bread episode, right? Where it's like the rules are, don't die,
Yeah.
make it fun, make it good.
Yeah, maybe
Right?
make it
And
fun.
that's-
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
But
Can
mostly
I-
don't die.
Do a quick sidebar real fast.
I am literally on my first slide, but yes,
I know.
go ahead. Sidebar.
Yeah, I know. Well, welcome to being the presenter, Alex. All right, I deal with this every week. But no, I just want to say I love to tell the story. I have a friend named Trevor who's like stupid rich. I don't know if you ever known anyone like this who's just like his parents are so wealthy that he like lives in a different reality than us.
Yeah.
And does a lot of weird things. And my favorite weird thing that Trevor does is anytime he's at a public thing of water, like a stream or something, he'll take a sip. And I always ask him why. I asked him one time because I noticed he would do that. Anytime he would be on public water, he would take a sip. And I asked him, he's like, "I'm trying to build up a tolerance to everything in the water." So he's just whenever he sees water, he just drinks some of it because he believes. Because
Right.
again, he literally lives in a different reality than
right.
anyone else. I
Yeah,
know.
specifically
And
the
he just thinks-
1800s.
Yeah, he just
in the
thinks
West.
that he's just like, yeah, you never know. He's a weird guy. Whenever we go camping, he again super rich.
Yeah.
Refuses to bring a sleeping bag or a tent. Sleeps under a tree. Makes a bed out of pine cones.
Wow.
That's what kind of guy this dude is. He's very weird.
Wild. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So why are we, so here's why. So there's that reason water is sometimes dangerous, but the other reason is 137 trimethylxanthine. That is the main reason why these two beverages are the two beverages. That is what you're looking at right there. That's caffeine. Caffeine is found naturally in a lot of seeds and nuts, including coffee, tea, chocolate, and cola nuts, which you know as the cola in Coca-Cola. So it used to be, everyone knows it used to have cocaine. It also used to have caffeine from the cola nut, which is adorable. But caffeine rules. We know that, right? It makes you not as sleepy in the morning. But why do the seeds want it? It kills the bugs. It turns out a little caffeine for us makes us feel cool. A little caffeine in a mosquito kills it dead. So other pests that would eat your plant, if you fill yourself with caffeine, you'll kill them. Also, it seeps into the water around your plant and kills other seeds that try to grow there. So it's like it's a pesticide and an herbicide, and it makes bees horny. It turns out when bees eat a little caffeine, they're like, hell yeah, that's where I had the best time of my life. And then the bees want to come back and keep fucking your plant. So that's why caffeine exists in the wild. And it turns out we found a couple of badass ways to have it. To drink it. We love it. So first, let me give you this is going to be very short. I have basically 3 slides on the history of coffee, 3 slides on the history of tea. So coffee, as we all know, was invented by a goat in the 9th century in Ethiopia. This is there was actually a coffee shop. Irene, I don't know if you remember this in LA.
Not just a goat. That would be the goat for sure.
Yeah,
right?
the goat.
For sure.
That's the goat for sure.
Well, it was specifically, this is the legendary origin, which is a goat herd named Caldi, who noticed his goats were always like real happy if they chewed on this one bush. So he chewed on it and he got so hyper that he danced with his goats. That's the legend. There was a coffee shop here in LA called Caldi that was, the logo was a goat. This is the famous legendary origin, is these dancing goats. This almost certainly didn't happen. But
goat has never danced?
I mean, goats might dance. I don't know.
Goats dance. I've been around goats.
Oh yeah.
Have you tried goat?
Yeah,
Milk? It's really good.
Give them a little Coke.
Yeah.
Goats
They're
will
like
dance.
they headbutt and they dance. That's what goats do. Everyone knows.
I think this is true. I'll believe it.
Yeah. Well,
That's plausible.
Well, it's funny because the origins, I guess I'll skip over the origin of tea. The legend is that there was a monk that couldn't stay awake for prayers, and so he cut off his eyelids so he wouldn't fall asleep, and those eyelids fell to the ground and grew into tea plants that keep you awake during boring ass prayers. So that's but
That's insane.
Isn't that crazy? Here's the thing though. There doesn't need to be a person who first chewed this bush. People are hungry. We will chew every bush. If you take one thing away from this, people are always, there's this like stoner comedy thing. People are like, who's the first person who ever tried artichoke hearts? Who figured out you could cut into here and then cook it and eat? Yeah, we've tried everything. We were so hungry. Every plant, people ate everything that exists, and if it didn't kill them, they reported back good news. That's just how all plants are.
I mean,
When I
it's
was
not
a
just
kid,
hunger;
dirt
it's
in my mouth.
boredom
That's-
too.
Yeah,
right?
hungry
It's
and
just
bored.
like,
We'll chew anything.
we got a lot of time. We got a lot of people.
Yeah.
Let's just
Also,
see
they're
what
probably
happens.
like daring each other to do stuff.
Right.
Yeah, right. We also we're egging each other on throughout the whole, because what else are you doing in the 9th century? You're a goat herd. What are you doing? You think he's not chewing every bush? So also, and coffee needs to be grown at a pretty high altitude. It needs to be grown in very moist areas. So it's like mountainous rainforests, kind of a nice belt along the along the equator. But that made it hard to cultivate, so it did not travel as far. Tea is much more chill, so there's a lot more tea around. It started in Ethiopia, in that East Africa, North Africa, Middle East area, and it traveled very well into the Middle East and became very popular in Mecca, in Yemen, in Cairo. It was hugely popular among Muslims because they could not drink beer, and at the time, beer was super popular in other places, and so coffee culture was instead of bar culture. That the coffee shops were where they hung out and had bad ideas.
Isn't that? I mean, no. I mean, I think that that definitively proves that coffee is better than tea. Right? You drink tea, you get colonialism. You drink coffee, you invent the concept of zero.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
That's
spaghetti, a
fucking
lot of
dope.
other cool shit.
But wait,
yeah.
hold on a second. Hold on. Should we have zero though, guys? Because if we didn't have zero, no one would be broke.
Yeah, zero's actually not so great. It ain't ever done nothing for me.
You're saying, Ezra, you would just but you would skip from 1 to -1. That would be you'd be broker.
I don't know if we have
yeah.
negative numbers either as a result.
Oh, I don't know if that came from the Middle East. I know that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I do think that Anthony, you will find coffee also very related to colonialism. So I don't know if they get they definitely don't get a pass on that either. The one fun fact about this is that one of the big export ports in the Middle East was the port of Mocha, and it was spelled Moka, but that's where, and the coffee that came out of there had a chocolatey flavor. There's a lot of chocolate coffee crossover. They're kind of similar plants. And so that's why chocolatey coffee is called mochas, is because of the port of Mocha. And then the last important step along the journey is that the Turks in the 16th century just dropped it off in Vienna while they swept through and killed everybody. And then that's how it started off in Europe, and it spread through Europe.
I mean, okay, look, just probably not everyone, right? Someone had to have done something with the coffee at some point.
Yeah, it's like how like the Dread Pirate Roberts leaves someone alive to tell the tale.
One person to drink coffee.
They left one Viennese person alive to go spread coffee around. But yeah, so they brought it up while they were killing Europeans and dropped it off, and then it spread through Europe and it took off. And we think of I think of the argument as coffee versus tea, but the real argument in Europe was coffee versus beer, because everyone was drinking beer. There was beer everywhere. There were beer halls, and so trying to get coffee to take its place, which I think is a fascinating question about humanity as to whether we end up with uppers or downers.
Oh, if Hunter had been there, you'd just like, guys, have you ever tried mixing beer and coffee?
Oh God!
Beer and coffee.
I mean, he certainly would have been executed for that, right? He can't.
try to catch him though.
I'll try it. I'll do anything.
Hunter in the 16th century being like, ye old four loco. Just like, this is...
So on the tea side, tea started out forever ago in China. I mentioned it was perhaps invented by a monk who was trying not to fall asleep. That's back.
He should have just drawn on his eyelids instead of cutting them off. That's what
like
you
the
do.
ping pong balls.
Yeah, you draw eyeballs on your eyelids, and then you can sleep all day. You know.
If you so to give you a little of an idea, this wide awake monk looks like the Totoro sort of like 1,000-yard stare kind of thing we have.
He's more scared than Totoro. Totoro was like a staid 1,000-yard stare. This guy has seen something and he is upset about it. This is very scary.
A man cut off his goddamn eyelids.
I know, isn't that
freaked me the hell out.
So also interesting is that coffee and tea both, like some of their main original uses were with monks, because it turns out praying literally all day and sleeping on a rock is not a good way to stay awake.
I feel like good beer also came from monks also, right? We had like the Trappists.
Oh yeah, I mean monks. Look.
So monks invented everything.
Yeah,
they don't monks. Good job.
They don't want you to know this, but like monasteries are the original frat houses. It's just a bunch of dudes drinking beer.
They invented beer pong.
Monks invented Molly. That's a fact.
Yeah,
is it?
Yeah, they invented Molly and most party drugs.
Hunter, you have this weird. You have the best ability of anyone on the show to say something that could go either way, could be true or not true. I never know with you.
The monk rushing where it's like, yo, guys, pledge Phi Sigma God. Really quick, probably you knew this already, but coffee is coffee. There's two kinds of coffee. There's Arabica, which is tasty, and there's Robusta, which is garbage that we invented so that it would grow everywhere. And it really is like undrinkable horseshit. Tea is tea or not tea. Tea is basically any weak soup. Anytime we throw leaves in a cup with water, we call it tea. But black tea, white tea, green tea, oolong, all of the Assam are all the same plant. That's all tea. That's all just tea. But like rooibos is not, tea is not technically tea. They call it a tisane. But anyway, so coffee is just coffee. There's not like, oh, this is just, we put our other bush and call it coffee. But tea, we call a lot of things. But the main tea, black tea, the tea bush started out forever ago in China. Alex, can I ask you a question about this? Okay. How precise can you get on these things before you end up sounding like a jerk? Because I had this issue when I was trying to order like the coffee that you wanted me to order at the cafe yesterday. Yeah. It was real hard to be precise in that way without being...
I don't understand the question.
What was the order? Tell me about the order.
Well, we'll talk about this in a second. We'll come back to this.
How do you specifically order something without sounding like a joke?
Well, I don't know. I've never not sounded like a jerk. I don't understand that.
I think you can just have jerk taste, though. That's just how it is.
Right? Yeah.
You like jerk stuff.
Irene, do you have any tips on this? How to not sound like a jerk?
What's the order?
Well, so this was a one single origin Ethiopian light roast. Pour over.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, when you start with single origin, you're going to sound like a jerk.
Well, the only way you can avoid sounding like a jerk, Ezra, is by reading the signs and knowing if it's going to happen or not. You don't have to ask. Is you looked at what they were. There's a board that says what they're pouring over today.
Yeah. Order the coffee. You know what I mean?
Well, so we're going to come back to the quality issue in a second. We're going to talk about that in a second. So let's put a pin in that. Really quick, just to finish up on tea. In the 17th century, so tea had gone from China to Japan, like a lot of things did, or vice versa, depending on who you ask. But as Anthony mentioned, if we think back on his presentation, the Dutch were the only Europeans allowed to trade with Japan. So the Dutch got hold of the tea market, brought a lot of tea over. And then actually the reason why we have tea in India was not a big tea producing region, but the English didn't like giving any money to the Dutch to get tea. And so they took this big piece of land that no one was using called India, and they started growing tea there. And actually, interestingly, India was not a big tea consumer until like the 50s, which is fascinating because it was mostly a colonial product and they weren't as into it.
I mean, I think that happens in lots of places where it's like, I remember this when I was in Costa Rica, where like a lot of like, say, good stuff got exported for a while. And that's.
So then, and then in the 18th century, in the most famous act of patriotic vandalism, people in the U.S. threw tea overboard into the ocean. And and that's important because we're going to come back to that in a second. But so that's the history
that's how
of tea.
That's how Atlantis also got into tea as well.
Just everyone loves caffeine, even the fish.
Alex, do you know when, like, because I'm not a huge tea drinker, obviously, like I will enjoy it, but like one of my things that I've always kind of appreciated about tea is there's like a more of a ritualistic kind of routine to like preparing it and all of this. And like that's, for some reason, like drinking coffee or just like eating coffee, like shoving just uncooked coffee beans in your mouth is much easier to imagine.
Doing that?
Uncooked?
What are you saying?
You just eat coffee berries? Are you like in the wilderness?
No, I mean like in like
goat?
the ninth. Yes, I am a goat. I mean, like in the 9th century, it's easy for me to understand how people get to coffee. Tea, though, you have to like strain it. You have to like boil hot water. You have to do all these things separately.
So just you don't have to have all of that work with tea. You can just you can take green tea leaves, throw them in water, and then just drink it and don't swallow the leaves. That's like the chillest way to drink tea. And
can I swallow the leaves if I want to?
You could also swallow the leaves if you want. I don't know what happens.
Cowboy tea, 3 leaves.
So basically with both of these things, Anthony, there's a chill version where you just chew on the tea leaves and you get caffeine. You chew on coffee beans, you get caffeine. And then because people were bored and hungry, they tried everything. And eventually they figured out, actually it tastes really good if you dry the tea leaves first. But same thing with coffee. You dry the husks of the coffee and then you get the bean out of it. And then it turns out it's even better if you roast it. Like people were bored. They tried everything. As far as the ritualisticness of it, coffee also has a huge ritual in other places. Middle Eastern coffee service is like so ritualistic and amazing. If you go to an Ethiopian restaurant, order an Ethiopian coffee service. It's so fun. I was at an Ethiopian restaurant and they were like, coffee service. And one of the things it listed is like, comes with this, and smells. And I was like, you're selling me smells? That feels weird. Sure enough, the cook came out of the kitchen holding a frying pan full of coffee she had been roasting and waved it around our table and then left. And it smelled incredible. It was so good.
Wow.
Worth putting on the menu, man. You get smells. So so ritualistic other places.
Also, I want to shout out during the whole process of like making, I think, both tea and coffee that like in the early stages. I think there is some fermentation in like the bean process as well.
Interesting.
So I think with like some of the drying stuff as you're like getting away like the fruity bits. So I want to say like old shout out to our alliance buddies, bacteria and probably yeast.
Hell yeah!
So
that's from the bread episode. Okay, so quick numbers on it. Coffee we drink worldwide about 2.25 billion cups a day. Or 140 or 3 billion cups a day worldwide for tea. And the numbers on this are hard to get because it's just hard to ask everybody. But those are some estimates that I was able to find. Just slightly more. We actually consume like 3 times as much coffee bean as tea leaf by weight because it takes way more bean to make coffee than it does leaf to make tea. In the United States, though, it's very much flipped. It's about 146 billion cups annually to 81 cups of tea annually.
Also, the U.S. majority of the tea consumed here is cold, which is weird, and the rest of the world thinks we're very strange for that. But I think we're right.
I do think hot coffee is better than cold.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, cold things don't smell is a weird thing about the way the world works, and it freaks me out. So, like, even though cold brew, we've solved cold coffee not being disgusting, it doesn't smell like anything, and that freaks me out.
Wait, is that true?
Yeah. The smells
not as much.
Yeah, you can get some smell, but like most of the smells come off of both the heat pulling the oil out and then the steam rising it, and so it can get into your nostrils. So cold stuff just barely smells like anything. So yeah, cold brew smells like nothing, which is really weird, because hot coffee smells so amazing. Just a couple other fun numbers. China is the largest consumer of tea in the world. Finland is by far the largest consumer of coffee, and the U.S. is somewhere between 11 and 8th place, depending on who you ask. But Finland, every ranking, the most coffee. And I tried to figure out why, and they were like, it's cold. That's it. That's the best they've got. It's just really cold. But also, like, Sweden and Denmark are up there. So, like, I think it's just dark and cold.
Don't they also have like 40 government sanctioned breaks where you have to like drink an espresso? And
they do have a lot of sanctioned espresso breaks, but I don't know if that's a chicken and the egg thing. I don't know.
I mean, Sweden does have like kind of a ritualized fika. Is there like kind of like a afternoon coffee break time, and that's for sure like part of the culture.
I love it. So that's coffee and tea. And then the last question I really wanted to know the answer to was like, why do we have more coffee in the U.S.? Because we were a colony of the UK, of Britain. Why did we not end up being a big tea drinking country? And the reason is the Boston Tea Party. And this is like basic, and it's so funny that this has lasted as long. The main reasons why, like the reason why the Britain went with tea and not coffee is because they ended up growing a ton of it in their colony in India, and then it was like a cool patriotic home beverage. It's like we grew that. The Dutch have coffee, we have tea. We're going to become a tea country. So there was a point when it switched. In the U.S., we were huge tea drinkers, and then during the Revolutionary, do you guys remember during the Iraq War where Bush was like, French fries, more like freedom fries, right?
Yeah. Right.
And then we were like, so if you look at statistics on French wine consumption in the United States, they cratered during the Iraq War and have not actually recovered since then. So insane, idiot, patriotic dumbness is what like ruined the French wine industry in the United States. It turns out we actually did that during the Revolutionary War. They were like, don't drink tea. That's for the bad guys. We're a coffee country now. And it worked for hundreds of years.
I have such a good idea, guys. So
if it starts with starting a war, I'm not into it.
No. I don't need to. So you just take whatever problem you have and say that it's England's export, right? So it's like, oh man, all this racism we have here, that's actually from England in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
So like we have to actually like, get rid of that. Stop consuming all that English racism that's been like clogging up, like our lives, and said like, you're like, okay, I guess we have to like, treat people with, equity or something.
Yeah.
That'll work. That'll definitely work. We don't even have to think about it further than that. I mean, that's pretty much solved, right? I mean, absolutely. That's what they're looking for.
Okay, this is a new pitch for sure. Try it on for size, mix some Coke with it, whatever you need, Hunter, to get behind this.
I mean, this is kind of what happened in the 90s with like Blur and like Oasis. Like we threw them in the ocean and got Matchbox 20 instead. Like we are kind of still doing this.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? We're not taking the superior music.
I'll take that.
Okay, that is how I think Poseidon really got into Blur though, for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So the last thing I had a conversation with Ezra about this yesterday. So Ezra is like the nicest of the group of us, if you couldn't tell already. And so Ezra wanted to know what our favorite hot beverages were so he could try it. And so I was talking to him about coffee yesterday and how I drink coffee and what I think of it. And I want to be clear. Okay, so I love coffee. I drink a ton of coffee. I like coffee when it is good, and there is a way to make it extremely good. I also drink bad coffee all the time. Like I make very good coffee at home, and if I let it get cold, I'll just pour the cold cup into my cup and just drink it because I'm a beverage goblin. So I'll drink. I will drink hotel coffee when I'm in a hotel. I will drink gas station coffee when I'm on the road. Like even though I know how to make it good, I will, and I prefer it. I will do bad ones all the time. But I was telling Ezra, if you want to taste what a really good cup of coffee tastes like, this is the way you do it. It's Ethiopia. It's single origin. It's brewed probably in a pour over, although pour overs have kind of fallen out of favor in the coffee industry, but it's mostly because they take too long to prepare, not because they're not great. Whereas French press fell out of favor because it's actually not making very good coffee. But anyway, that's the best coffee. Single origin, Ethiopia. You can get Kenya and Rwanda. They also grow very, very good coffees, but single origin, Ethiopia, light roast, recently roasted, and you drink it quickly in a pour over. It's great. It's great. Really good. And you talk like people talk about bitter notes in coffee. If you talk to coffee people, they refer to it all the time as a sweet beverage. Like they call it sweet because if you do it right, it's not gross. It's like so wonderful. Anyway, but so I just realized I have some tips for how to get how to find really good coffee shops when you're traveling. This is one of my pro moves. Irene, I know you, because you tour a lot, you also have some thoughts on how to find food and beverage on the road. Here's my coffee thought. You want to find good coffee. This is not the only way to find coffee. This is not the only way to like coffee, but this is how I find coffee that I am going to enjoy. First thing, the coffee shop, you can tell immediately from looking at it if it's going to be good or not. Are the shelves beautiful open shelving, nice exposed wood, like the espresso machine is handsome looking, like all of those. You can immediately tell. Does it look warm and inviting or cold and cool? And if it's warm and inviting, their coffee will not be good. You want it to look
you drink
cold.
Coffee with your eyes first, right? That's what they always say.
You can tell from the logos. And I took the name off this one because I didn't want to be mean, but there's a coffee shop near Ezra called States Coffee. Looks incredible. And I have not been there. I can tell you they do a very good job because it's beautiful interior. Their logo is good. Usually, almost always a sans serif. You get something that uses papyrus in the font, it's going to taste like ass. It's the rules. And it's not that the font makes the coffee better. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you don't care about graphic design, you probably don't care about coffee roasting, in my experience.
Whoa.
The people who don't give a shit what their shop looks like, whose menu boards aren't very readable, that lack of attention to detail means they don't care about making the coffee good.
Yeah, this is giving me a great idea for a coffee shop right now.
Where you like do all the interior design and sell shit coffee?
No. Well, no. Although that's a great idea too. I was thinking the opposite. Shit graphic design. The coffee's amazing, and the place is just called like Eddie's or something like that. And it's just like looks like a fucking like an outhouse or something, and you go inside. Coffee's good.
Yeah, there's a rule behind this where it's like as soon as basically you have the criteria for like what is good or what isn't, like you can shift and game the system basically, right? So like at some point, Alex, as soon as it becomes codified of like what good coffee places look like, someone's going to catch on and be like, oh, we can hack what a good coffee place is without actually having good coffee.
It's possible. The idea that somebody would have the amount of work to do that, of knowing what looking good is and knowing how to make it look good, why not just make good coffee? Like the person doing that to just make bad coffee, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. You can also usually tell by the price, which is not guaranteed, but like the place, the bad place that Ezra was looking at was selling coffee for $13 a pound. That's Folger prices. That is not going to taste very good. That's not what good coffee costs. The other thing is you want it to be unwelcoming. That's my tip. If you look at it, like it should be a short metal stools that like are not adult human size. There should not be Wi-Fi. Like if you sit comfy chairs, the coffee is going to suck. Like,
right.
If there's a lot of food options, if there's syrups available, that if they seem like they are flexible in how they make drinks, if there are multiple sizes of coffees, the coffee is not going to be as good.
Dang.
Look, and I know
I feel like it's any restaurant too when they're like we don't take any like alterations
100%,
on what we make. Yeah. It's
a great sign. Yeah, it's never somebody who's like doesn't care what they're making and is like, but we're not going to change it. Like no one who's like, we're just making garbage. Like McDonald's will let you have it your way. That might be Burger King, but the point is like, when you don't care about the quality, you can take any alterations you want. And the other one is you're looking at Yelps. You're trying to find a coffee shop on Yelp. This is the thing that has been the most reliable and most helpful for me. You can tell from the pictures, but if there's no pictures, if the reviews say that the staff was rude, that doesn't necessarily mean it's good. But if they say the staff was rude, it's a good sign. If the staff was rude and the coffee was good, that is the best place in the world to go. Because Yelp reviewers are just very soft, sensitive people who don't like if you're brusque. And so they only go there to write bad things. There's nobody on Yelp going to say, I am a good person of quality and this is a good place. They're all people who just got out of divorce hearings. They're very sad people. If you say that despite someone being rude to your face, you enjoyed the coffee, that is the greatest compliment anyone on Yelp could ever give. Another thing that's very helpful is if they say the coffee was beautiful, because that usually means latte art. And a fun fact about latte art is that it doesn't just mean that the person can draw a rose. The reason you do latte art is to show that the milk has been steamed properly and has the right amount of air and is the right temperature for it to actually taste good in the coffee. So you're showing that you have the right kind of microfoam, because you can't make art in bad foam. Anyway, so beautiful latte, also good. If the review says, I love my regular barista Kevin, he's so nice, do not go there if you want good coffee. If Kevin is nice, the coffee sucks. This is the other thing is people on Yelp reviews are always like, I asked for a rose water latte and they didn't have rose syrup. Like that is, and then they're mad. They're always somebody who wanted to make a crazy, if a coffee shop won't serve milk, that is going to be good coffee. Like there's a bagel shop in New York that will not do cream cheese. That place rules. It's wrong. It's stupid, but it's so good. Like if they are assholes about that, it's probably because they care about the product. But yeah, generally also mean, because the only time baristas at hipster coffee places, very nice people, good people. They're mean to you if you're like, what do you mean you can't do a chocolate vanilla, right? It's the amount of syrup they don't have is what comes across as rude. Anyway, so those are my tips.
Alex,
if you want to get my coffee, Ezra, what was your experience trying to get my coffee?
So I want to say that as a whole, it seems like this is Alex's tips of how to get the best coffee and the worst experience. I want to say, like, kind of combined together.
Well, no, because I can fix the experience. I can find a place to sit. Like my favorite place.
How are you gonna fix the stools, man?
My favorite places in Portland are coffee shops that are attached to hotels, because you can go sit in the lobby of the hotel, get a really comfortable couch, but you get the good coffee from next door.
You did take me there once. I remember that. Okay.
So what do you do? There's like this coffee place near my new place where I live now that's follows most of your like positives. But I was in there recently, and like they sell a lot of merch that says like hope, right? Just like this, like hope and like positive affirmations. And I've always thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah, that's a mix. That could go either way for me in terms of whether it's going to be good.
And then I was looking through their books that they have lying around. They have some Calvin and Hobbes, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then like a movie, I went down to the next book, and it was like Coffee and Jesus, and I was like, oh, that's weird. And I went to the next book, and it was like,
Bale, get out of there.
But does Jesus love you? And I was like, oh, that's weird. I went to the next book, and it's one Calvin and Hobbes book and all Jesus stuff. It's a religious coffee shop, and it made me very weird. And I was like,
is it good?
I'm not hateful. It's good. I still go there.
Well,
the coffee's pretty good,
because they have to stay awake during the prayers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Jesus loves you, and all the coffee.
I think Anthony, that could go either way. You know, like it's like there's that what's that show, the Chinese acrobatic show that's secretly a cult that you see billboards for everywhere. Like there's when you have a thing that's designed to get people in, so you can trick them into following your cult.
Shenyun.
Yeah,
yes,
Shenyun. If you're tricking people into your cult, you have to make the product that people see appealing. Right, the coffee has to be. If the coffee sucks, people are like, I'm not going to believe in Jesus. His coffee tastes bad. So you have, but also Jesus, probably you want people to feel welcome. You want comfy chairs, so they'll stay there and read your books. So like that might be a bad sign. And so it could go either way for me. Still, I'm not sure.
I like
weird. It's like Christian music. Like it's not inherently bad, but there's just a vibe you feel about it.
Yep.
And like Christian coffee shop is kind of the same thing. I'm like there and I'm like, this just feels kind of weird.
Yeah, just trying to trick you a little bit.
Depending how deep you read, though, I like the idea of you coming away from it. We're just like, man, have you heard the good news about Hobbes?
Well, isn't Calvin and Hobbes religious? Isn't it secretly about Jesus the whole time?
No.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
No, that's
I mean,
like a bumper sticker.
That raccoon, when it died, that raccoon just straight died, right? Like, I mean,
raccoons don't go to heaven.
Well, they could.
They steal. That's one of the top 10 commandments.
Dogs go to heaven.
Dogs go to heaven. Yeah. And dogs hate raccoons. There's no way there's raccoons in heaven. That would ruin dog heaven.
You can have tears.
Ezra, how was your experience going into States Coffee trying to get a light roast Ethiopia?
Stressful. Just deeply stressful. My God.
What I noticed when I was looking at this place is they have a sign that says what they are currently doing pour over of, and you can't ask for something else. You don't order off the menu. You see what they have it good.
So they did not have. They were doing a blend, and it wasn't pour over. And they didn't actually. I was like, okay, are you doing batch brew or pour over? And it like really took a lot of back and forth for us to like communicate well.
Right.
I'm not sure the barista actually. She was very nice. I'm not sure she actually understood either what I was asking.
If she was nice, bad sign.
I know. So anyway, their pour over situation was not pour over. It was like basically like it was a drip, but it was for me like a 2-cup at a time drip.
Sure.
I
mean, and batch brew, by the way, makes incredibly good coffee now. Like that's one of the reasons why they switched over from pour over is because it goes way faster and is totally good. If you're at home and you have the time, make a pour over. But like batch brew tastes fine. I was thinking about doing it and I didn't get around to it. But like, here's all the things you can do to make good coffee. Here's the line where you can notice. And the line is like, if you buy really good coffee and you grind it right before you brew it, the brewer doesn't matter that much. You'll be fine. Those are the things you can taste. The difference between good and bad coffee beans make a huge difference. The way you pour it over is like a little bit.
Yeah.
And then after that, there's like all these little things you could do to pour after you grind the coffee. There's these cool little whisks that you use to like break up the little clumps. Anyway, fun to do, good ritual. You will not be able to tell the difference in a million years.
So I mean, generally, we bought the beans instead of like, going for the non Ethiopian blend that they had that was not poured over. We did buy a donut and split that, Sarah and I, and that was good. And then we went home, and then we were like, okay, well, we had Anthony's recommendation of hot cider, and we also had Hunter's recommendation of hot sweet tea.
Which is where you pour Coke into tea, probably.
It was a good amount of sugar and some English breakfast.
Have you ever thought about just like microwaving a Bang energy drink for like 30 seconds? Chugging that
in the can?
Nice warm in the can.
What did you think?
So I mean, the cider was great, even though it's March. Still a really good thing. Kids had we had like cups of cider for the kids, also just some cinnamon on top, allspice. It was real nice. Nutmeg. Hunter, the hot sweet tea is great if you like drink maybe like 3 tablespoons, I think, and that's amazing. Anything more than that, I felt maybe a little bit physically sick.
Yeah. We drank way more of that when I was a kid. My grandpappy, he would make and also he didn't use no fancy English breakfast tea. He was using brisk. It was just
that is
a big crappy.
He was heating up iced tea.
That's what I'm saying.
God.
That's what it was. I wasn't saying
so much funnier to
What
me.
I'm saying is I was raised by dirt people that like to drink sweet tea, but sometimes they would just make it hot, and I'm like, this is insane. This is not how we're supposed to do it. And he was like, I do like it like this, and then he put like a whole bunch of sugar in it. It was completely insane. He was a maniac.
No, it was really good. And then also we had some of the leftover iced. We had iced hot sweet tea this morning, and that was also still very good.
Nice.
But then then we had the pour over with your Ethiopian, and we did all the things we're supposed to do, and like basically Sarah took like one sip and was like, this tastes like nothing to me, because Sarah's like habituated on like really dark roast, and like I think the thing is that I was realizing is like we don't really like drink beverages, we actually drink our memories, right? So it's like all the connections we've had. If you grow up.
That's not true, but it's sweet. I like that.
No, it was. I think
drink a beverage and you remember.
I think you like it.
We drink our memories. It's for sure there. It's canon now.
It's definitely
memories.
both.
What about the part where you're drinking it, Ezra? What are you drinking then?
It's. I mean, who knows? No one. Scientists don't have no idea.
Okay.
No one knows if we experience anything really.
Okay.
Friends, has this ever happened to you?
Sweet, a cool new coffee shop.
They have hot coffee and the other kind.
We have to get in.
I'm sorry. This is an exclusive soft launch, reviewers only.
Aw, sassafras.
Wait, guys, what if we become reviewers right now?
I'm listening.
All we have to do is leave an honest 5-star review for that great show, The Best Thing Ever, wherever we get our podcast.
Couldn't we review any podcast?
Nope, that's the only one. That's what makes you a reviewer.
Well, my questions are answered.
I just left an honest 5-star review.
Me too. I got a rush of dopamine and I've transformed into a real reviewer.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Best Thing Ever reviewers, right this way.
Thanks
Best Thing Ever.
Review The Best Thing Ever with an honest 5-star review wherever you get your podcast, and join the exclusive Reviewers Club and stick it to snooty gatekeepers. That'll show them.
What I love about this is honest 5-star. I think that's a great phrase. Just however your heart feels to give me an A+, you can do it. Just be true to your soul. 10 out of 10 is all I need.
Yeah, make it your own. Yeah. And then 5 stars.
Honest 5 stars.
All right, so now it's time for our employee review, our 3-step review of warm beverages. So let's talk about what's good, what's bad, and what we would change about it.
So you guys can jump in here as you want, but I'll give you just my quick things, which is that I think caffeine falls under all three: strengths, weaknesses, things you might need to change. Caffeine is really helpful. It's also a bummer for a lot of people. Sometimes hard to tell if it's better or not. You know, there was that Michael Pollan book we were talking about. It seems like he was kind of up in the air in the end of it. I generally like it. I think I mostly love it. I mentioned also iced. I feel like is a good option in the summer, but also is not as good as hot things. So that's a good and a bad, and I might want to change it. But the main thing I want to say, the big strength for all of this thing we have not talked enough about because I've been focused on the beverages. Let's talk about the warm part. And that's hugging a mug, you guys. First thing in the morning when it's cold, you get a nice steaming cup of something. You kind of put both hands around the mug, and it warms your whole body and soul. It's the best.
Yeah. Or like I have like when I used to drink whenever I wasn't feeling good, like on a nice cold day, like a hot toddy with like a strong shot of something in it, and it's nice like melted honey, cinnamon stick. It's delicious.
Yeah. I mean, that part, I think, is hard to argue with. The other best thing is ritual, which I hadn't even thought about, but Anthony mentioned. And like, I think even like one of the things I like about pour over batch brew coffee is that I like the ritual of standing there and watching the water drip through. And I like pouring, like, doing the little pattern and watching it go. Oh, you even put in the hug mug, Ezra. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen this? So, there's a mug that kind of has like a okay, so you can kind of slip your finger into the mug a little bit, basically, and like warms your hand like as a thing. I know it's wild.
I'm generally not into this, but Megan loves it. You can't hold it. Like the handle is bad for holding. You can only palm it, which you could already do. So I don't know if it actually helps anything. But anyway, Megan loves it, swears by it. We have several of them. But the ritual of coffee or the ritual of tea, I tend to drink more tea occasionally on weekends, usually when I'm watching British soccer because it feels fun. But I like the ritual of it. I like doing the whole thing. It's really, really nice. So those are my strengths and weaknesses. Anthony, tell me yours.
I would say cold drinks, hot days.
Yeah.
Cold days, hot drinks. I mean,
yeah.
Definitely very nice to have a nice warm drink on a very cold day. I think the biggest thing here, biggest pro for me is drugs. I've done a lot of drugs in my life. I love drugs. I used to love drugs. I don't do them anymore, but I still drink a lot of caffeine.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I've just gotten back on coffee. I switched over to energy drinks a few years ago.
Oh.
Just because they were like a little bit cheaper, you can kind of grab them and go. You can get them anywhere. And the main thing is that energy drinks are an unregulated hellscape filled with the shadiest companies that don't care what they put in your body.
Yes.
So you can get 300 milligram drinks. 300 milligrams of caffeine energy drinks that have a bunch of other stuff in it that you don't know what it is, and it makes you feel good.
Which, just to be clear, 300 milligrams, if you're not familiar with the milligrams of caffeine, is 3 coffees or 6 teas. It's a lot. That's a lot.
Yes. Yeah. So me and my some old buddies at my coworker started ironically drinking Bang energy drinks every morning a few years ago.
Oh, no.
Can you ironically
started drinking
Wait. Can you ironically metabolize them also, where it's like your body knows not to actually?
Oh, man, he's doing this great bit with all this guarine.
So me and some buddies at my old dispensary, we used to like one day a friend brought in a bunch of Bangs, and then the next day I brought in a bunch of Bangs, and someone else did, and we all got addicted to Bang energy drink for a long time. And I drank a Bang energy drink every day for like 2 years.
Oh my god!
That can't possibly be good for you.
Yeah, that's. I don't know.
Growth?
I don't think there's any argument
grow other things on you.
Good for you.
You told your doctor this, right? Like,
yes.
How many drinks do you have in a given week? And I mean that either alcohol or Bang energy. I'm worried for you.
Yeah, and it is. I will put this as a weakness. One of the things about going from energy drinks to coffee is, I really hate how people constantly, whenever a company wants you to spend an extra $10 on something, they use coffee prices as a as an excuse. Like, you pay $15 for coffee. Why won't you give us $10 for Twitter Blue every month?
Because I'm spending money on coffee, you dickhead. I don't have any money left.
I hate that trope. I really do. Mm-hmm. But I am kind of surprised going back to coffee. It's obviously not as expensive as people make it out to be, but coffee is more expensive than energy drinks were every morning by, not a huge amount, but it does add up.
But that's like saying like McDonald's is like so much cheaper than like healthy food.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like bad for you.
Yeah, the salad place costs 3 times as much as McDonald's, and I can have it my way.
Like my meth is so much cheaper than my cocaine. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, well, of course.
It's more drain cleaner. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing with coffee is it just makes me so thirsty. Like if I drink coffee, I feel like I get like really bad like dry mouth.
Yeah.
And it happens a little bit with tea, but like not as bad. Like if I drink like a cup of coffee, I'm just like, oh my God, I need to drink so much water afterwards.
So one thing about the, I in general, I think from everything I've read, people used to always say that coffee dehydrates you, and I don't think it actually, as far as I can tell, it's actually because you're also drinking 12 ounces of water, so it has a little bit of a diuretic, but you're also filling your system with water. So in the net, you actually do hydrate from it, but it's got that astringent property that makes your mouth feel dry.
Yeah, it makes my mouth feel bad. So So it's like I get a headache, my mouth feels bad.
That's why you have a second beverage behind your main beverage.
No.
Yeah.
Mix them all together.
I just don't do it. Beverage. I don't do it. Well, so I just do matcha lattes if I'm going to do any kind of
it's delicious
tea, coffee, which is great.
It's a nice grassy flavor.
I love it.
No, I
love
it too, but I can get behind it sometimes. The tastiest grass clipping beverage I've ever had.
I don't like that a lot of places now, they automatically do it like sweetened. They're like, ooh, we can't do it unsweetened because we already pre-made it sweetened. And I'm like, no, that's bad. Like if you go to a place and it's like it's sweetened, that's bad.
Yeah, I agree. One thing about the crash.
Cover up. Just give it to me.
I just want to have it.
Yeah. Let me know what it's supposed to taste like, and then I can make it taste good. Let me adjust.
Yeah.
The one thing about the crash and the thing about caffeine that I've basically decided for my life is that I don't mind taking a loan out on what next hour is going to feel like to feel better this hour. Like if I can, because I can schedule my productivity to be like, I'm going to write for 2 hours and then crash for 2 hours and do other stuff that's not important where I can be sleepy and then focus for 2 hours to do the important things. And I because it's not like your energy comes from nowhere. You're always like you're just borrowing it from the future, and I don't mind that.
Yeah, but sometimes I stay up all night and I think weird stuff by myself in the dark. And I don't like that.
Or you have like weird dreams.
You write it down,
or just I don't know. I just feel like that's the weirdest time of being a human being. It's like not being able to sleep.
Yeah,
and I find if I drink too much coffee, that's what I mean. For all I know, I've set myself up for that today.
Yeah,
which means I'm just going to be there like thinking way too much about something stupid. And I don't even necessarily mean anxiety stuff. Sometimes it's just like I'm like doing Tetris in my brain for no reason. You know what I mean?
Wait, so you're the one moving the pieces, but you're also the one deciding what piece comes next?
Yeah, then it gets tough. I'm really hard on myself.
Oh yeah, no. Come on, why want to drop?
And I'm
why
just singing
can't I
the song
get a
to
long
myself.
piece? I just need one long piece.
As you know, as the only person here who would like chug bang energy drinks every few years,
it's weird that
I do want to suggest something else that I think I'm also going to be the only one on. I mean, Jim Jarmusch made a whole movie dedicated to this concept.
Yeah.
But coffee and cigarettes.
Oh yeah.
I know most of you guys will probably not be into that, or I've never experienced that, and I'm trying to quit smoking myself. Yeah. But there is something to the idea, and you can't do tea and
uppers and downers together. Isn't that weird?
Well, I mean, cigarettes aren't really a downer. Like it's not like you're, like coffee and opiates. Like that.
Well, no, but my understanding is that nicotine is like the way it works is basically a depressant.
Yeah, but you're not gonna. The coffee's gonna override.
The coffee's stronger than the cigarette. Okay, that's what I was curious.
The coffee wins.
Sure.
Yeah. But the thing, it's not even a win. It's they walk hand in hand across the finish line together. You know what I mean? Like we're all having a good time here.
I was gonna say to the opposite of whatever Anthony just said. Where he was like coffee and cigarettes. I was going to say like I tend to drink a lot of just like hot water with lemon.
You
and, like,
do.
honey.
That's true. Which is a very cost efficient. We were talking about the price of coffee. Water with lemon is free most places.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they'll charge you, which is don't go back there.
Yeah, that's obnoxious. I mean,
sometimes the hot water is $1, and I'm like, this is free. Okay, you heated it up.
Water. Yeah.
Well, they didn't even heat. They have a machine that automatically shoots out hot water.
You didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Or they just scooped it out of the pasta before they brought it to you. Either way, it was just going to be there anyway.
Or they had cold water and they put it in the microwave with the lemon. That's always a bummer.
But yeah, that's just the warm thing and the hydrating. That's a great combination. That's solid. What are your weaknesses for warm beverages, Irene?
They get cold. They get cold too quick.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Well, so Ezra actually has a response to that, which is a non-sponsored segment for Ember mugs, it looks like.
Okay, so Ember mugs are not a thing that people necessarily should buy on their own. No. But if you can talk to people who might have more money than you and get them to buy you it as a gift, it's very much worth it.
Mommy.
Have you guys seen...
whoever it is.
What is this? I don't know. I haven't seen this.
My mommy won the lottery.
It's a travel mug with a heating element in it. So it slightly keeps it subtly keeps your beverage warm for a long time.
And so you can have a travel version. You can also have just like a regular kind of like mug-shaped mug version, basically with the open thing. So it's like, I mean, it is basically a travel mug, but you just lift off the top and you stick a battery on the bottom. Essentially, is like what they've done, and it feels really good in your hand. And you can actually dial in the exact degree that you want, like on the app. So if you want your mug to have battery and Bluetooth technology, you absolutely can. But it is really it's really good.
Oh, I don't know if I want to drink Bluetooth. Okay,
it's on the inside. I think you're fine. Don't put it in the microwave.
It's gonna be one of those like, oh, I want to get coffee, but I have to do a firmware update. I'm in there.
I have to allow Geo services in order to turn on my mug's temperature.
Like it has issues, but honestly, it is still a very satisfying way to have a morning. Like it's a part of the ritual. I don't know how to say it. But yeah, it is. I don't know if it's worth it, but I have gotten a good amount of enjoyment out of it over the last few years.
Do you have any other weaknesses or changes you would make to warm beverages besides getting an Ember mug, which is your next?
Also, sometimes it's too hot.
Yeah.
The
Ember mug does not work. There's not like an inverse mug where it chills it to the exact temperature that you Bluetoothed into it.
I like that it's an activity and a treat.
Yes.
Like you can basically like go say like, hey, we like if there's someone who I might not want to get to know, but maybe don't want the full thing of like having a full separate activity. It's like, oh, hey, like let me have this good thing that we'll like have something to talk about no matter what. And also like you don't have to stick around that long after if it's not going well. It's real nice. You can make friends with baristas, which is really fun.
The social aspect of it was huge through the history of it. Like coffee shop culture was like it was. I mean, the American Revolution was like lined up in coffee shops. It was planned largely in coffee shops. Basically, every monarch at some point in Europe banned coffee because that's where rebels were hanging out, and then it didn't work, and people got too mad. But there's great quotes from like the Prince of Prussia is like, you can't do coffee, coffee's evil, and it's like, well, that's where because they were plotting to behead you there. But coffee shop culture, even if you're not beheading anybody, is really wonderful.
This is probably just a me thing, but you can moneyball most cafe menus.
It's definitely just a you thing. There's a lot of ways. Some ugly coffee that actually plays first base really well.
Yeah, I mean that's what we care. We don't care about if they're pretty beans. They just if they get on base. But so that's really fun. Especially, I mean, I like the Starbucks menu a lot for this. I think it's really, really fun, especially with the rewards system.
It has to be Starbucks because if you do this to normal people, to not a corporation, you're kind of the monster. More so than if you ask for your coffee to be good. If you're like, hey, small coffee shop where I'm friends with the barista, can you give me one shot in a full mug and then a separate hot milk, and then you're the monster.
No, I mean, I think you always treat them well, but I think sometimes it's like if you go there enough and you're friendly, then it's like, oh yeah, that's Ezra with the weird order. All right. As long as he's being cool. Weaknesses, it's a lot of peeing. It's a lot of peeing. I feel like
Hunter, strengths, weaknesses, changes.
One time, Jared made me my friend Jared. He made me a really good cup of coffee. I think about it all the time. It took him like 25 minutes to make this cup of coffee. And it was like 8 ounces of coffee. You know what I mean? It was like a tiny little cup of coffee. Yeah. And he had all these tools that I'd never seen before. Yeah. And I just don't even know how he did it. Yeah. And it blew my mind. And Jared, he just doesn't listen. But Jared, I still think about it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
My two favorite coffee tools. I mentioned the tiny whisk where you break up the clumps. It's very pretty, very satisfying. The other one is these little tiny spritz bottles, and it's just water, but you spritz the coffee once before you put it in the grinder because it reduces the static electricity when you grind it, so it doesn't stick to the sides of the grinder. Very, very marginal. Does not change the flavor at all, but it's such a beautiful part when you watch somebody do like really beautiful coffee where they spritz it and then grind it and then little thing. Oh, it's wonderful.
Like aerated it or something.
Yeah,
like
sure.
There was like some sort of like pump thing that it was in, almost like it's like, I don't know what he was doing.
We did AeroPress?
Was it like a tube?
It was not an AeroPress.
Yeah, it was in a tube at one point.
Maybe it was an AeroPress.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's what he was doing. I don't know.
AeroPress makes good coffee.
Like
That's a good product.
Well, that was one of my best roommates ever, is Jared. I do think that, we talked about Ember mugs. I was going to make up the idea of Ember mugs on this podcast, but then it turns out the product already exists.
There's another option that's like inverse ice. There's like metal things that you want, like a little metal ball. You put what?
Like hot chips.
Just like hot chips, I guess. No, and you can get them in like coffee bean shape, which is cute. But you put them in hot water. It absorbs the heat into the metal thing. Then you put it in the coffee, and it slowly releases the heat into the coffee as the coffee cools. And it's opposite ice cubes, and I can't remember what they're called, but those do also work.
What if it was a little place for a fire to go? You start a little fire under your mug,
right?
So it's just kind of cooking.
I love this. The only one thing I'm wondering is, does it have Bluetooth?
No Bluetooth.
Decide how much fire to use.
It's real analog fire. Okay.
Well, anyway, we got to move on. I think that's enough information. It's time to rank it. Are you guys ready? Let's rank this on the master list. Ugh. Okay. It's the master list. We have 4 things currently on it. Ezra, will you please read the current master list of best things ever?
Yes. From top to bottom. Number 1, Fresh Bread. Number 2, My Neighbor Totoro. Number 3, Cat Videos. Number 4, Playing Halo with the Boys. All in quotes.
Hunter, why did you laugh?
Oh, I just sounded funny because it's just like a list of 4 things that don't have anything in common with each other.
Fair enough. That's part of the premise. So I want to start to make this a little bit differently today. Is somebody interested in making the argument that warm beverages are the best thing ever?
No.
I mean, I think they are the best thing ever based on this list because I don't really like bread that much. So.
Oh shit! Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, bread has been controversial. Bread and My Neighbor Totoro. We had kind of a split. So Ezra and I liked Fresh Bread. Hunter and Anthony preferred My Neighbor Totoro. I think Cat Videos got kind of short shrift. Everybody agreed that the people who play Halo are too racist, so that fell to 4th. Yeah. So warm beverages is kind of an interesting place here. I feel like warm beverages and fresh bread. Like a lot of people in the world, I could not live outside of a city for more than an hour, but I have this little idea that I have a cottage dweller in the back of my mind, like somewhere inside of me. I could just wake up every morning, make coffee over fire, eat fresh bread from the oven, knit, work the land and live in a cottage for the rest of my life. And I couldn't. I would die in an hour. I would die before I was even hungry. I would just give up and stop breathing. But I do believe that. And so I feel like fresh bread, warm beverages together so strongly in my head. And because of the way we worded them, I would make the argument. Some people don't like bread. Some people are allergic to bread.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody likes a warm beverage. I think they're more universal. We have different ones here, different favorite ones here, but the idea of warmth and beverage is so universal. Tea is the second most popular drink in the world. I guess water is probably the best thing ever, but like we need to hydrate.
Here's my problem, Alex. Yeah. We're making a list of the best things ever. We're not making a list of the hierarchy of needs.
That's true. You know what I mean? That is true. It would be very funny if it was like shelter was above both of these at some point.
Yeah.
Actually, water's above shelter? I don't know how the hierarchy needs works.
Yes, but I think warm beverages. I'm like, I think if you're going to like knock Halo because of weird cultural stuff with it,
well, that's because of how my joke phrasing of Halo.
Well, no, I mean not even
used against Halo.
not even the that part of it. I'm talking about racist sort of shitty culture with online games. I would think between the countries and the exploitation and everything that to this day happens with warm beverages. I think you would have to hold it to the same standard. If you don't hold it to the same standard, you're holding Halo. What are we doing? You know what I mean?
Okay, interesting. So there's some baggage along with it, is what you're saying.
Boy, is there. And I skipped most of it. The answer to like where coffee grows, it's like a certain altitude, a certain amount of moisture, and a certain amount of slave labor. And where tea grows is a certain amount of acidity in the soil, a certain amount of moisture, and a certain amount of slave labor. And both of them are big colonial products. Both of them have horrible, horrible pasts that I skipped. Not because I don't think those are important, because they're harder to make funny. And we have we do have a directive on the show. We clicked comedy as our primary tab in iTunes when we first launched the show.
Biography. I mean, like make stuff up now?
Wait, so are you telling me that bread is not racist?
No, it also has some issues.
Interesting. I don't think it's only racist in the way that hot beverages are usually racist, have usually racist past, but there's definitely some problematic things. You get a sandwich like a banh mi, there's a story here. It's very clear.
But yeah, there is like a need for bread, right? Even if you can't eat bread.
I could never eat bread again and be fine with it.
Yeah, I think that's
like bread.
We don't have to eat bread.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of us grew up with a lot of bread, but yeah, we could all eat rice and be very
well, you guys are all white.
Yeah,
so
no, I think that's a part of it.
I don't really like bread.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think, are there any easy answers, right? So can we at least say this is warm beverages above Halo with the Boys?
Oh, yeah.
Hunter, you were upset a second ago. You don't feel like we should be giving communal video games a relook?
No, I'm perfectly happy.
You're just going to complain
about it. Dumpster. Well, the thing is, it's more like, I think we're at this phase where we're trying to figure out what this segment is supposed to be.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I think we have kind of leaned on comparing baggage with the thing. Yep. And I feel like it'd be cool if maybe that just went away, because we don't really, that's kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, we're not trying to have least bad thing. Actually, is what.
Least bad thing is not the podcast I signed up for. I signed up for best thing.
It's maybe part of it, but maybe it's not that. Maybe that's the core thing.
I think it should be who celebrates the hardest this thing.
Yeah, I only bring it up because I feel like that kind of thinking is how we ended up with fresh bread as the best thing ever. Which I still think is a.
Let me do a different pitch then. Let me just tell you, my gut says warm beverages are the best thing ever, and the reason is the segment we did on pros and cons just now that was the most enthusiastic. We had the most people going like, oh, this meant this much to me. This is how much I loved it. That was the most positivity that we've had on that segment. I think a lot of us, like, warm beverages mean a lot to us. We have more opinions about it than we have anything else. Certainly stronger than we did on bread. Like, people just now, you guys cared about warm beverages.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess it's going to have to be the podcast where we insist that the best things ever are bread and warm beverages.
Yeah, I just what the fuck are we doing?
Hold on. Until wrestling, Anthony. Until wrestling. Yeah.
I don't think wrestling's going to have.
You don't want the thing of the show to be a reasonable list that people agree with?
No, I actually don't want that at all.
I think it would be pretty funny if
Anthony,
we called it weird.
Anthony, I want to say right now, I'm going to try to get pro wrestling as high as I possibly can.
Thank you.
I don't understand it. I don't know if I like it, but I'm going to stump for it real hard. We'll see how it goes.
That's what
I know there's a lot of problems with pro wrestling. Is the thing. And we could explore that.
Look, we're not doing it. We're not going to ignore baggage. That's not fair either. I'm just telling you, you guys like warm beverages a lot. That's the thing that I'm making.
I don't like warm beverages more than my neighbor Totoro.
Yeah, but I would rather like my neighbor Totoro. I don't know.
Very weird sentence.
Okay.
I would rather watch My Neighbor Totoro than ever have a cup of coffee.
I feel like coffee.
Really?
It doesn't make sense.
Okay, but what if it was a bang?
Yeah,
what if we included hot bang or terrifying energy drinks?
No, that's a good thing. If I could getting off the bangs is the thing I'm trying to do. That's the point.
I can't quit these bangs.
Totoro is how I stopped banging.
But I just think, again, like I said, as Ezra had alluded to, I've mentioned this a lot. I'm not trying to bone any of my capital.
I know you
said, you're doing wrestling next week.
Saving up for this. Okay.
Pushing all in.
Well, I don't think this is in the bylaws, but let me give you guys a pitch.
Okay.
I think
I like what you're doing, Ezra. Just keep doing it.
I'm
just seeing what happens.
No. Yeah. Here's the problem. We all agree that warm beverages are better than fresh bread. There's some argument about whether warm beverages are better than Totoro. But that sounds like we got a problem on the list. So I don't know if this is allowed, but let me make a suggestion. Warm beverages number 1. My Neighbor Totoro stays 2. Fresh bread falls to 3.
Oh, let's see what happens.
A swapsies. What do you guys think about that list?
I think that's okay. I can live with
that. That's
that.
probably what should have happened. That's what should have happened.
I want to see what happens here.
I mean, this part doesn't represent me because I think My Neighbor Totoro is a little boring, and I like the character, but it's not even close to my favorite movie. But whereas warm beverages are my favorite beverages, but like I think that's a compromise to be willing to do just to get you guys to stop being so wild about how much you like pretending you don't love warm beverages all of a sudden.
I like warm beverages, and that was exactly what I was going to propose. Is that would have made more sense? And also, we could have just ranked My Neighbor Totoro number 1 last week, and there we go. And then it would be easy right now. Then we did a weird compromise.
It was 2 weeks ago, and also because that's an insane sentence.
Look, I think this is great. I think clearly what people are tuning in for is the drama. You know, that chaotic drama of the ranking.
This is
wild, man. This is the great shake up of the power rankings. So
I want to know how would I'm just wondering, like, if we kept doing it without making any kind of compromise like this, how much of this list is really just us listing foods we like, though? Like, is that all this is at the end of the day? Can we stop doing this podcast already? Because it's really just different types of food are the best.
I like food more than I like a lot of other things. I'm a big fan of food.
Yeah. Like, just number 1, it's just good food.
It's really just food, right? Yeah. Like, I don't really get what else there is to figure out.
Well, no, but pizza is the best thing. Pizza's going to win this list in the long run. Pizza's definitely going to be number 1.
But but what I'm saying is I think what we're finding out is the whole world of food and drink sits atop the list.
Would you have known that 6 weeks ago, Hunter? That's the thing. We might have figured it out. The best thing ever is eating.
Well, no, because to me it isn't. What I'm saying is if you're trying to build consensus between people, it's always going to be food and drink.
I think that's an interesting point. By making this compromise based, on average, people like food.
Yeah.
What about Irene? What on this list does this make the most sense to you? Except you don't like bread, so would you just move bread down to the bottom?
I've never seen My Neighbor Totoro, so that couldn't be second for me because I don't fucking know what that is.
Right.
So
this is the problem.
Number 2 is a thing I've never seen. That's not
number
happening.
3 is the thing you don't like.
I mean, it's not like I don't like fresh bread. I think it's nice, but I just like.
So I would put beverages.
Oh, you know what I would put number 1? Soup. I love soup.
I actually was thinking about soup yesterday, where it's like, oh man, I think soup has a run because it is the merging kind of warm beverages, but also it's
a warm beverage and food.
Yeah, right. It's real good.
What could be better?
You know what I would say about soup.
Hunter is so upset at the idea of soup being the best thing ever.
Weird
he can't even get a sentence out. He's too busy imploding at the idea of soup being on this list.
I'm not imploding. I think it's just a problem.
You're weeping. Why are you crying, Hunter?
Look,
we're like people that got together to be like, you know what? It's soup. It was soup.
I'm just saying, the answer is soup.
What you're
saying, probably right is the thing. That's what I'm saying.
Here's the thing, though. Here's what argument I would make. Okay, if you watch, you should watch My Neighbor Totoro. It's like 90-something minutes.
I'm not going to. I promise you. I'm not going to.
Here's the thing, though. If you started to watch My Neighbor Totoro with a warm beverage and some fresh bread.
Yeah.
By the end of the movie, neither of those things would be warm or fresh anymore.
Where's my soup?
Yeah. But My Neighbor Totoro will still be My Neighbor Totoro. You know what I mean?
I got a question, Ezra. Is there an ember bowl to keep your soup warm forever?
Oh, must be.
Okay. All right. We'll work on our ember-based sponsorship in a second. But we have one more quick thing we got to do before we get out of here. And that is read some email. All right, we got some emails from the mailbag. A bunch of great stuff this week. A couple of things I'll read to you first. An email from Allison, by the way, it's mail@bestthingeverpodcast.com. Allison writes, from a couple weeks ago, we were talking about Totoro.
We mentioned that it was a co-feature with Grave of the Fireflies, which is one of the saddest movies ever. Allison says, Grave of the Fireflies remains the most depressing film I have ever seen, but it was very good. I'd recommend watching it as a double feature with either Barefoot Jen from 1983 if you want a World War II bombing theme where the kids live, or When the Wind Blows, 1986, if you want to go with the cute small people dying slowly during war. So instead of having Totoro as a palate cleanser, Allison is suggesting, what if your palate got less clean as you went along?
I mean, it's like, I would suggest if you want to do something similar to that, watch Grave of the Fireflies, followed by the documentary Dear Zachary. If you just want all the moisture in your body to leave through your eyes, and to never know happiness again, watch those two movies back to back. I mean, they'll both fuck you up.
I've never heard of any of these, but the idea of doing I'm making a movie marathon to ruin my life is very funny to me. What can I pair with that? Why don't we watch Amistad after that? Let's really have a run. Also by email, we asked you last week what your nominations for best thing ever. Is it going to be Soup, for example? And Jonathan wrote, my friends and I have agreed that the best thing ever is when you're at the park and you see someone walking a dog and the dog is carrying a big stick or perhaps a Frisbee.
That's pretty good.
I will add, one of my favorite things is when a dog is carrying a stick that's too big.
Yes,
I love a dog with a stick, but a dog with with half a tree, and he doesn't know that it's not just a stick. Kills me. I also like when the dog has a big stick that can't fit through the gate, and he can't figure out how to get through the gate with the stick. Love that.
That's classic.
Jonathan says, not sure how to make that a good episode, so here's some actual suggestions. Jeopardy, or in general game shows. Emojis and the moon landing are all suggestions for actually the best thing ever. Also, at some point, you should do an episode about the show Best Thing Ever itself. Maybe your 1 year anniversary, which is a great question.
If we could be not dead last by the time we do that, I'd appreciate that.
It'd be really, it's going to come really. Is this podcast better or worse than playing Halo with the boys? Is really interesting.
I'm a no.
I'm not sure it is yet. We got to get better.
But what's interesting is from our experience, instead this is for me because I like community video games. But my favorite thing is making stuff with my friends, and so doing a show with the four of us. Is really that's up there.
It's got to be
all the labor that went into this, Alex. Pretty problematic labor for a lot of this. I don't know, man. I feel like a lot of people are underpaid here.
We really got to talk about some baggage there.
Yeah, that is true. What do you guys think about Jeopardy emojis and the moon landing? I assume you meant emojis, the emojis, not the movie.
I think all of those would be great. They're all probably really fascinating stories. I'd love to put together a presentation on any of them.
We did do that episode.
Not real, so
right. The moon landing. I mean, the moon landing would be an interesting one to talk about for me as far as the best thing ever because I like space and I think inspiring generations is really useful. But also, it's like there's some baggage there.
It wasn't real.
Well, it's not being real. Issue number 1. Number 2. Those were Nazi rockets that got us to the moon. That feels weird. That does feel weird. That one's.
It's not like the rockets were Nazis.
That's what you think, Hunter.
Those rockets swore allegiance to the Fuhrer. No, that's true. The scientists who made the rockets and the rockets were based on Nazi rockets.
Just saying, don't blame the rockets.
Yes, but they're all in hell now, so don't worry about it.
I think there's like 2 left. I think there's 1 or 2 left that haven't gone to hell yet. But yeah, you're right. And then I also want to read. So you can send us an email, mail@bestthingeverpodcast.com. And I'm going to work on a shorter email because that's too long. I want to read. We had the ad last week for reviews. We got some great reviews, and we really appreciate it. All of your honest 5-star reviews have been really helpful to us. I want to read my favorite review of the week. This is from Nickname Not Taken Is Taken. Wrote on iTunes or on Apple Podcasts, whatever it is. This is a frank and honest review and is not at all influenced by the pony the Best Thing Ever podcast sent me. I mean, I only asked for a pony in exchange for a review as a joke anyway. I didn't really expect them to send it to me. I live on a 4th floor apartment and horses do not like to go up and down stairs. It keeps getting sick too, which the vet said was my fault. But how was I supposed to know that cereal means something different for horses than it does for people? I feel like it's more of, I love the idea of a horse just eating cornflakes every day. I feel like it's more the horse's fault than mine because it did like the stuff. Anyway, you should be the expert on what you can eat, horse, not me. In short, it's been horrible for both of us and for both me and the stupid horse. And I am still scraping poop encrusted Lucky Charms off the walls of the dining room. 5 out of 5. Fantastic podcast.
Wow.
I
like this so much. This cracked me up. Thank you, nickname not taken is taken. I love a world. I love that it just kept getting deeper into the world of that. It's very, very fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good
okay,
point.
Fine. I guess I'm not sending another pony.
Yeah, that was the one pony you get.
Well, no, I didn't know the pony was unhappy.
It was a one-trick pony?
Trick was pooping.
Well, I do want to shout out to the other new members of the Official Reviewers Club, Thunder Johansson and Patty Co. Appreciate that also. So yeah, maybe
also nice, honest 5-star reviews.
5-star reviews. If y'all also, everyone else, if you review, maybe we'll read your name. Maybe we'll read your review.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
You can make stuff up. It doesn't really have to matter.
Apple Podcasts is a place you can review stuff. It seems like you can't on Google Podcasts. They don't allow it. I don't know. Maybe it's available on Spotify. I haven't checked that on podcasts.
Thank you for our YouTube reviewers who have left comments.
I forgot that one. I wanted to highlight that one. We got a great review on YouTube. That was just a comment that was like, "Hello, YouTube. I would like to rate this podcast 5 out of 5 stars."
I think that's really helpful.
I really appreciate it.
Also, I think flagged the video for offensive, and then write a glowing review in the offensive flag. Appreciate that.
That's good. That's really good, Robin.
A lot of great options here. Love Robin. Okay, and then so that's the business. The last thing I want to tell you. So you can rate us and reviews on those places. You can send us feedback. Mail at podcast at bestthingeverpodcast.com, and of course on YouTube, youtube.com/Alex Falcone. You can also watch the visual version of this. And next week we're going to be talking. Finally, it's happening. Anthony, the moment has arrived. Next week we're talking about professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's happening. We're going to find out. Is professional wrestling the best thing ever?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I'm really holding out judgment on this topic until I hear all about it.
Well, I had to have an open mind. I listened, we talked about Fresh Bread. We talked about a lot of stuff that, look, I didn't go to Fresh Bread Mania when I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Washington and watch.
It was wild. Anthony,
yeah.
You missed out.
You missed out.
Yeah.
It was
But
great.
I was at WrestleMania 19 in Seattle, Washington, and saw Stone Cold's final match. And watched Brock Lesnar almost kill himself. So I definitely have a bit more of it. But yeah, it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be my magnum opus. I've been working on it for a long time now. I'm very excited to present.
I can't wait to see it. I can't wait.
History of wrestling.
Warn our guests that's going to be a long sit. All right. That's the show. That is it for us today. Our theme music is by @Mitrix. Our logo design is at Tom Typography. We're on Instagram and Twitter at BTE Pod. On YouTube at Alex Falcone. You can leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. I mentioned this already. Mail at bestthingeverpodcast.com. Our producers are the Duke of Jill and the best regional assistant manager, Sean, as well as Claire, job TBD. I'm Alex Falcone. I'm Alex_Falcone on TikTok and Twitter, as well as no underscore on Instagram. Also joining me, Ezra. Thanks for hanging out.
Of course.
Anthony Lopez.
Oh yeah, brother.
Anthony, I gotta tell you, I did not like doing the work to put in this presentation. This ruined a whole day for me. This is so hard. I don't think I did a great job. I cannot believe the amount of work you put into the show.
You did great. You did good.
You did great, Alex. I loved it. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Hunter, we hear more of Hunter on his podcast, Old Gamers Almanac, where he talks about past video games and ranks them on a master list. And has less argumentation about it, I think, because they're logical comparisons.
No, we argue. It gets
still a good
amount.
Okay,
come on in if you like a weird argument.
Irene too. Thanks for hanging out with us, buddy. It's good to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
Irene2.com to find out about upcoming shows. Obviously, Instagram Irene_2. I love an underscore on a social handle. I'm sure I talked about this.
I didn't do that by choice.
No, none of us did. It's never our first choice. I've done this terrible thing where I go back and forth depending on the platform. I should have just unified, but I didn't. So I got an underscore on TikTok and on Twitter, but no underscore on YouTube and Instagram. Stupid. Do you have the underscore everywhere? You're mostly on Instagram's your best platform, right? That's
Instagram's the most. I have another handle too. I switched to Irene2 Comedy on TikTok and Facebook.
Right. I also have Alex Falcone Comedy on my email. It's stupid. Too many handles. Too hard. I want to just be famous enough that I can kick people out of their Gmails and take it. But yeah, listen to your record out now, available on Bandcamp and on your website, Irene2.com. I've said this for other people. If you can pull it up on a streaming service,
You don't even have to listen to it. Just play it, walk away. That's all we need. Get the sweet, sweet plays. We need those fractions of a penny. You might have frozen. I was waiting to see if you were just not reacting to me. You might be frozen. Anyway.
I was going to say something else.
No, that was it. Okay, good. You're not frozen. You're just very, very stern. Anyway, that's it. Just go play. Get Irene those sweet fractions of a penny. Thanks for being here, Irene.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll talk to everybody next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.